Okay. Can everybody hear me now? All right. Welcome to the Skill Builder. Today's Skill Builder is on the new Laser Engraver. Glad to see so many people are interested. I've already been asked the question, why am I in charge of the SIG on this? I've been doing laser engraving for the Boy Scouts since 2017, and I did all the pieces that we did a couple years ago for the Epic box, and I've done all the pieces over here so far for the field turf boxes that we're making. I did 160 of them, and then the laser out at Scout Camp broke. Scouts decided they weren't going to do anything with it till the beginning of the year, and at that point, the board kind of panicked and said, okay, what happens if they don't fix it and we can't get our product and we got to pay a whole lot more to have laser engraving done? So that's when they decided that with this purchasing this laser engraver, when we get finished with the field turf box build, we'll actually have already paid for the laser. So that's how it got here. My name is Mike McCauley. I'm secretary of the guild. I'm also Curtis and I, Dr. Alexander, are the people in charge of the laser engraver SIG. Now, to explain, we're going to be having classes on Wednesday nights through the end of March. We will start the laser engraver SIG in April. So what we're going to do is on the first and third Wednesdays, because of LC meeting and because of our general meeting on the first LC meeting on the first Wednesday and general meeting on third Wednesday, we'll have one class of 4 people. Each class is limited to 4. We'll have one class of 4 people from 5 to 6:30. This will all be on the sign-up Genius. You don't have to write it all down. And the other Wednesdays, the 2nd, 4th, and possibly 5th, we will have 2 classes, each an hour and a half, from 6:30 to 8 and then 8:30 to 10. So that's how you'll get trained. We will actually have a little sticker. As of Wednesday, my daughter, fortunately, is a professional printer, and she's going to make us a little sticker that we'll have on here. It's actually our little rabbit logo. So if you don't have a sticker, the foreman is not going to give you the key. Just that simple. We can't have people trying to operate this machine that is not familiar with it. It's our understanding this is the only rabbit laser in Kansas City. Okay? If you've gone out to the Johnson County Library, have used a laser somewhere else, it's different. I'm just going to leave it that way. Okay? So we need to show you, make sure you understand what features on here we're going to use, how to use them. I'm going to go over the rules. I think everybody's been handed one out. So prior to using the laser, operator must attend training through the Laser SIG, Special Interest Group. To reduce dust contamination, we have the curtain must be pulled around the laser. So when you leave, if you're using it, you can pull it back. When you leave, you're going to put it back in place. And we have a large sheet that was given to us to put over the laser engraver. I came in either Wednesday or Thursday, and there was a layer of dust on there about a 16th inch thick. So we want to try to keep that from happening. So we're going to have a cover to put over it. Please remove the cover before starting and put it back when you're finished. The operation key must be checked out through the foreman in charge. We will have a sign-in sheet. On that sign-in sheet, basically the same sheets that we use up in front, you will sign your name. You'll put on there, I don't care if you put on there laser, if you want to put on there your special project or whatever, doesn't matter. What matters is that you sign in. When you sign in, you're going to put the time you signed in. Until such time that we have sufficient people that, have gotten saturated by use of the laser, we're going to limit it to 2 hours a day. Okay? So don't come in and say, okay, I'm going to do this 2 hours, I'm going to wait 2 hours and do 2 hours more. No. It's going to be limited 2 hours a day for the time, temporarily. So bear with us on that, and it gives everybody an opportunity to get in here. What we're going to do is, say the first one in that morning is Mark. Mark comes in, signs in. He gets here at 9 o'clock. Next person in is John. John says, I want to use the laser. He's going to turn around and sign in on the sheet. When Mark's finished, up to 11 o'clock, because you came in at 9, then he'll sign out. You let John know. John will get the key from the foreman, and you do the same process again. That way, you're never waiting more than about 2 hours. Okay? If you come in the mid-morning and you've got 5 people signed up, you probably want to rethink. Maybe come a different day, or, you know, calculate out your time, because we're going to let them have up to 2 hours. Now, some people may only need 15, 20 minutes. If they got their project already designed, then it's not a big deal, okay? We're going to ask you to design your projects and put them on a thumb drive. If you haven't seen them, real simple. You can go down to Micro Center, get them for about $10 or less. That's what you're going to keep your projects on. While I'm mentioning that, if you leave your thumb drive at the laser, it's going to go in a little cup. The cup's going to say free. Whoever walks in behind you gets to pick it up and walk away. So if you've got a project you want to keep, you've got something you want to do, keep your thumb drive with you when you're finished. Pull it out of the computer. Everybody should know how to tell it to safely release your thumb drive so you don't take any chance of frying it. Same way with the library computer. You're going to bring whatever you've done from the library computer up here to this computer. This is not networked with anything else, and it is standalone. You have to use this computer to be able to use the laser. Okay, just that simple. And the computers, Doc, show them that computer. It's a little bitty. It's this little box right here. And that's all the more the computer is. I'm going to go back to our rules. We explained about the 2 hours. Library computers, and you do your design in there. They already have the registered version of Lightburn on them. Eventually, we will put a version of a picture graphic software that goes with Lightburn. Eventually, that'll go in place. But right now, that's not being used until we get a little. We'll use that down the road. Mike, question?
Are the files the light certain size? You do need a certain size thumb drive?
No.
They're pretty small.
Yeah, you're talking, you know, a few megabytes. As way of explanation, I think, let's see where this one I have. This one is 128 megabytes I bought for $10. Nowhere near the price they used to be. Now, the chiller. The chiller is over here. I don't know if Chris, can we see if we can focus down here? Chris, can you show that? Okay, that's the chiller. There's a little switch on there. That has to be turned on first. It's like a dust collector. You have to turn it on first. You have to turn it off last. There is actually a lockout that if the chiller is not on, the machine will not come on. The reason for that is that circulates cold water. It gets 5 degrees below what the current room temperature is. It circulates water through the laser tube. There's a tube back there about yay so long. It's glass. The laser actually goes through there, and the water flows through there to keep that cool enough to be able to use. So that has to be turned on first and is the last thing that goes off. But it must be turned on and off each time. The air assist, it's on the side of the cabinet. There's 3 buttons there. The lowest button down is the air assist. On this machine, air assist must be turned on. We'll go through all this when you do the training, but I want you to understand the process. The exhaust fan, there is a foot switch over here on top of the chiller, and that turns on the exhaust fan. So anytime you're burning anything on the laser, no matter what it is, that needs to be on because that sucks all the smoke out. As with any of our equipment here, if a guild project is going on and somebody's doing something, you know, for the guild, because that's how we keep our dues low, the guild project gets priority. Most of the time I'll be doing the guild projects, and 90% of the time I'll be here before you can get in. So, you know, if you walk in and see me here, you might want to ask me how long I'm going to be there, because most of the time I'll be spending a good portion of the day trying to get the guild projects built so that, is Roger here? He was here earlier. I don't know if he's still here or not. Roger Bartlett's in charge of our current build. And Roger's already told me that I need to start working on the next phase, even though we haven't got the first phase built. So talk to Roger about that. Key point number 11, do not load any software on the computer. I'm not talking about files. I'm talking about new software. Nothing goes on there that's not there currently. And do not change machine settings. You can change power, you can change your file, you can change what you need to do as far as burning and so on. And here's a guide that Curtis made that gives you an example. You can look at that afterwards of what the power versus the speed does. But do not change any machine settings. When you get finished, delete your job. Again, this will be in training. We'll show you how to do that. Everything should be off that computer every time, or off the machine every time it gets turned off. You turn off all the components and put the computer in sleep mode, and you return the key to the foreman. That's the general process. Now, never leave the laser unattended. Anytime we're going to be working strictly with wood. We're not going to be burning any acrylic or glass just yet. We may look at that farther down the road, but right now the only thing that goes in there is wood. And wood can catch fire. You're dealing with a machine that basically is fire. It's a high intensity light. Same thing as going out. When I teach this to the Cub Scouts, I tell them it's just like going outside with a big magnifying glass, and you focus that down in a nice little fine point, and you catch a leaf or catch something on fire. It's the same thing. So be aware that if you walk away from the machine, the foremen are authorized to shut the machine off, and you will not get it back. So if you've got to go to the bathroom or something, ask somebody to come over and watch it for you for a few minutes. Because in the event that a fire does happen, you have to hit that emergency button to shut it all down. We talked about only wood can be used. This machine is very powerful. Never use a power setting above 85%. Now that's different if you've been over to the Johnson County Library. We usually use 100% for cutting wood or anything like that. That's different from anything else you've used before. The way this machine's set up, you do not use anything above 85%. At this point in time, we're not going to cut through anything thicker than 3/8 of an inch. This machine is actually capable of cutting through a 2x4. We do not have that focus tube yet. It takes a different tube. You've got to change it out. It's a process. So we're not going to mess with that for the time being. You don't want to cut anything thicker than 3/8. Now, having said that, what's kind of cool is we cut out a piece of veneer. Okay, has anybody ever done veneer for a project before? And you know how fun it is to make sure that you cut it without tearing everything up in the process. Okay, this cut through did not leave black marks on it. So you can, and that was set at 350 millimeters speed and a power setting of 36. So cut straight through. So that is something you can use this laser engraver for, is doing things like that. These projects are all up to you. We're not going to tell you have to do one or the other. Once you're trained, you're trained. If you go above 350 millimeters per second, the laser can't keep up, and whatever you're doing is going to be real fuzzy. So the manufacturer and our installer suggested do not go above 350. Even though the software says you can, just don't. You can go below that, but Doc found that usually when you went below 350, it had a tendency to burn straight through. So it depends on what you're trying to cut. All personal projects must be kept on a thumb drive and removed when finished the laser. Delete your job from the laser memory, and thumb drive left in the laser will be pasted in a free bucket and given to anybody. Now, the software. You get light burn software. This information at the bottom of the page is what you'll need to put in your software. Okay? It gives you the dimension of the bed. And from what I understand, all you have to do is put the URIDA, R-U-D-I-A, and it picks up everything else. But we gave you the specific controller number. So if it comes up and says, well, I don't know what controller I'm going to use, it'll do that. Somebody asked about inlay. Doc did this inlay earlier. Each of those letters are inlaid. You had what the walnut and what went with it, Curtis? He had a piece of plywood that he used to make the lettering. This is another piece of inlay. So that's, this was the first time he had tried it. He got a couple pieces of scrap. So those are some things you can do. There's a picture of the Last Supper. I'm passing some of these things around so you can get an idea of what the laser is capable of. This is a piece of walnut. All it is he use the Guild logo, and actually that'd be a pretty nice little award for somebody. Norm's over there going, yeah, I can give that out as an award for my trainers. All he's got to do is rustle that walnut away from Mike Jones. Michael never notice. just cut up that board he's got over there. He'll never notice. Conversely, you can do things like this where you cut it out. Okay? Same logo, we use that logo because you're familiar with it. This is pretty delicate. I'm not going to pass it around. But those are things that can be done. Doc, you want to show them and tell them about your box? Well, okay. This is a pressure fit box. He's got some real intricate designs on there. And all that's just friction fit. John, I'll let you pass that around from the back side over there. So these are things you can do with a laser. It's kind of a neat toy. Yes. Okay, these are some things that I've done. I did with the laser engraver that Scouts have. This was actually a 24-inch by 24-inch table that laser engraved for Tavern 24. L&K had made all their tables, and he asked me if I could laser engrave one. So this would put on, this was a skateboard for my grandson. Laser engraved our little dragon on there. Go ahead, Chris. This was Tim Locke had to do a urn, and we laser engraved the top of the urn so that it was a memorial to the decedent. This was kind of interesting. Scouts came to me and says, hey, we've got this log, and we turn around and cut all these little cookies out of it, and we want you to laser engrave them all. Who knows what happens when you have green wood and you laser engrave it, and then it sits for 2 or 3 days? I had all kinds of people contact me. Well, my plaque's broken. Okay, we used green wood. It didn't sit. Well, how come you use that? Because that's what they gave me and that's what they wanted. So, yes, it can be done. I wouldn't do anything like that unless it sat for a long time. Next one, Chris. These are a couple little Christmas ornaments made. Chris actually handed these out, the dollar bills, just for size reference. But these were ornaments that we made at Christmas time to hand out to people. So again, this is all done with 3mm wood. Same thickness as that. Works really well. And you have to provide all your own materials. Okay, we have nothing here at the Guild to give you that says, okay, here's your 3mm piece of wood. We're not offering that. Now, in case of the inlay that's being looked at right now, that was actually a piece of scrap. Doc grabbed it. If you look at that, that could be cleaned up and look real nice. Now, that's glued in. Is that right, Curtis? Yeah. So that's glued in place. That's pretty much what I have to tell you about the machine end of it. Like I say, during training, we will and the reason we're keeping it down to 4 people is because I want you to be able to gather around and actually see that controller and see what we need to do and how to do it. Chris, can you put up the graphic of the control panel? He's pulling that up. Okay, this is what our basic control panel looks like. Okay, the light from lighting up is actually on the very top. This part of the panel is on the side. Okay. In here, you're going to get a file preview. Whatever you've loaded up, it'll actually show you a preview of what you're going to be engraving. The file name, and that's where you're going to look down through the list. There should only be a few that you're doing. Reset takes the machine all the way back to the beginning, and you lose anything that you've been working on, you have to reload it. Pulse, leave it alone. Pulse is primarily for purposes of setting the machine up and calibrating. You do not need to use that. So please don't bother. Focus. Focus is an automatic thing. There's a plunger on the head. It'll come down, it'll figure out where you're at, and then it'll raise or lower the bed accordingly. So if you've got a 3/4 inch piece of wood that you're engraving on versus a 3 millimeter piece of wood that you're going to cut out, it can determine that. Frame. This is kind of a neat feature. I haven't had this on my epilogues, but if you've got, let's say you've got all your words printed out here, and this, or your design, and you want to go, okay, will this fit on the board, and where will it fit? This thing with the little red dot, you hit frame, and it goes around whatever you're doing. So it only shows that portion of it, which is kind of a handy thing. Now, when I'm doing the box tops, I actually have to have a full-size frame because I want the words centered on that frame. We're not cutting anything out, so that's how we do that. Origin. That's, again, this is something unique to this machine. I can turn around and take a board, bigger board here. I can take a board and say I want the engraving to start here. I can move the gantry to that point where the red dot lines up. I can hit origin, and that's where it's going to start. So again, these are things that we will go over when you actually do training. We'll start that as of Wednesday. Whoop, put that back up. Okay. Shift, you really probably won't need. That's for certain special functions. You probably won't ever use that. Escape gets you out of anything you're currently doing. Start and pause. That's the go button. It also tells you when you need to stop. Stop button is exactly what it says. It's going to stop the engraving. It's going to go back to square one and start over. Menu. I cannot stress this enough. Do not touch. Don't look at it. Don't breathe on it. Don't pretend to look at it. If you get into that, it can actually reset the machine, and then it'll be down for a week or so until we can get a hold, because I've got to get a hold of Ray, and he'll have to guide me through to make sure that the machine gets reset properly. Do not touch the menu. Repeat that after me, please. Do not touch the menu. Thank you. Yeah. File is actually whatever file you're using, and we'll show you how to do that, and you can go through the list. Power, you can actually change your power and speed settings while the engraving is going on. You probably won't want to, but it is an option. And again, this is something you're going to have to learn how to do. When we got this machine, I contacted Rabbit Laser and said, I would like to have a listing of what all the buttons do and how they work. And she goes, we don't have anything like that. What do you mean? How do you know? Well, we let you experiment. Okay, so when the machine gets screwed up, yeah, then we charge a service charge and come out and fix it for you. Okay, so we don't want service charges. We don't want to have them come from Ohio to come fix it. I've learned a lot more about it in the last couple weeks, and I can repair most anything now. But that's what that's for. Like I say, you can change those in process. Enter is what you do to confirm what you're doing. When we bring you in, hand me one of those sheets, Doc. When we bring you in for training, oh no, the control panel. When we bring you in for training, we actually have a list at the bottom that explains what each of these do, including the one that says do not touch. I really can't stress that enough. Now, this has a Z-axis which raises and lowers the bed of the machine for the laser, it also has a U-axis. And I asked, what's the U-axis for? And they said, oh, that's in machining to do things like a CNC. Why is it on the laser? Because this same controller can control a CNC machine. So don't mess with a U button. It's not going to do you any good. But it's there. You just need to be aware of it. Okay, Doc, you're up. Show them how to do something. You want this one? Okay.
And so we,
Chris, can you switch over to his? Yeah. And he actually, once Doc pulls something up, you'll actually be able to see exactly what he's doing. Just go ahead and pull up software.
go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah, he can take you from there. There we are. Light burn comes up. This is what the panel looks like.
So the first thing you kind of want to do is you go up to File and you open up a project that you want to work on. I've got several here that I've already been working on, and let's just go to the,
And these are all on his thumb drive.
yeah, let's just go to the Guild logo. And just for simple things, one of the things, as you can see here, when it's just like lots of other programs, whenever it's highlighted like that, and you see the little ants crawling, that means it's highlighted. And in this particular case, all those things are grouped together. You can ungroup them by going to this image right here, and that ungroups it, and then you can work on any particular part that you might want to work on, or you can highlight them all and you can regroup again. Some of the main thing that you're going to look for here is the different layers that are on here, and each color, all these down here at the bottom are different layers that you can use, and you can set up different cutting speeds and that sort of thing, power, that whatever you want on that particular layer. So for example, this one is on the black layer, which is this layer right here. And if we open that up, you can see that the speed is set at 350 millimeters per second. The power is at 40, the maximum power is at 40. The minimum power is also set at 40. Now you can set this anything from 7% to 40 to the maximum that you have on there. I usually set it at least at 10%. If you set it below 7, you're not going to get anything. So you got to have a minimum power of at least 7 on there. And what that does is, like whenever you're doing corners or turns and that sort of thing, if you have it at the high power all the time, it's going to slow down on those corners and it's going to burn them a lot more.
Burns right through.
Yeah. So by having allowing it to have a minimum power that's lower, when it slows down, it doesn't burn those corners as much. But then on the other hand, if you're doing a big cutout or something like that, you want that power pretty much up close to the maximum power, so it just stays high all the time. Then you have the choices down here of whether you do a fill or a line. Okay, a line is just what it is, just cutting a line. A fill is if you want to fill the object in, cut all, like you're engraving, you're filling in the whole object. A fill plus line.
This is a fill.
So a fill plus line is filling it and then putting an outline around it to kind of highlight it a little bit more. And then down here you've got the line interval, and that and the lines per inch are pretty much, well, they're the same thing. Basically, they work together. But when you have, it's kind of like dots per inch, okay? The higher the number, the closer everything's going to burn together and the more detail you're going to get. And of course, it takes more time to do it that way too. And then down here you have the number of passes. Well, if you want to do a light pass 2 or 3 times, you can do that. Or if you're burning a heavy one time, or if you're cutting out something and it's not going through all the way the first time, you can do another pass and cut it again. Down here is fill all shapes at once. What that's going to do is it's going to go back and forth across the whole item and turn on and off as it crosses the different characters on there. The fill shapes individually, it's going to take one letter, and it's going to just go back and forth in short little distances to fill that letter. And then of course you got the fill groups, so it's going to fill a group of them at a time, and that'll make more sense to you whenever you use it. But usually most things you're going to use to fill all shapes at once. And then so that's basically how you set up your speed and power. And then over here on the screen here, it shows your output and your show. Like if you, like I've got this green line right here around the logo. If I wanted to burn that line as well, I'd highlight it as an output. But if I don't want it to burn, I can just shut off the output. I still see it. If I don't want to see it, just turn off the show. So anything that you want to actually do, you're going to go through to your list here and have set up as output. And of course, it's going to do each thing in order. So if you wanted to do the fill first, as we have here, that's the first thing, and then it's going to do the line. If you want to change order on anything, you just hit these buttons here and move it up and down the list. So once you got that all set up, then you're going to go to send and hit that, and you can then label that file as anything you want, and then that you'll recognize when you see on the machine, and you hit OK, and it loads it up like that, and then you come over to the machine and run it.
We ready to try something?
Whatever you want to do.
Go ahead and pull something up we're going to run. Okay, so the chiller's already on. We've turned that on when we turn the machine on. We're going to turn button down here on the side, third button down. It says 110 volt. That turns on our air assist. That's what puts the air through the nozzle of our laser engraver. And then we're going to come over here and hit our little foot switch. And that's our exit. What are you going to burn, Doug?
Well, I was going to burn your gear.
Okay.
I'm still looking for it. There it is.
I'm just going to turn this board around and let you burn it on that.
Okay. So
Who's got a tape measure handy?
when you got the got your item up here on, if you want to enlarge it, all you got to do is go to here, and it highlights the part that you enlarges the parts that you highlighted. You can go enlarge it here. You can decrease it here. You can bring this just to show the full bed of the lasers. This outline is the size of the bed of the laser. And I'm going to move this over here. And then whenever if you want to see what it's going to look like.
A little bit louder.
Okay. If you want to see what it's going to look like, let's see, I don't have the output on anything.
This little button right here looks like a television.
Wait a minute.
Get a microphone. Sorry.
It was suggested that if you wanted to do something longer than what the bed would allow in the laser, that the hatch on the back side actually opens, that you can,
Not on the back side, on both sides of it. It can.
so you can run something that's say 8 feet long, but you're going to only be able to do 3 or 4 feet at a time.
I wouldn't do anything 8 foot. You could probably do something 4 or 5 foot. 8 foot's going to be a little awkward because you don't have anything to balance it. But yeah, it is possible to do a pass-through. Again, our problem right now, at least, is trying to do a pass-through. The laser's locked in place, and the only thing we can move currently is our computer table. That's probably something that we'll look into as the SIG progresses. But currently, let's just try to keep it around the 3 foot if we can. If we need to go longer than that, we can make that happen. But again, until I'll give you an example. Gary Milkey has a file that he does over on the CNC machine, and it's a 5 foot growth chart. And he asked, could we do that on the laser engraver rather than the CNC machine? I said, yes, we can. Now remember, you're only going to engrave 3 feet at a time. So once again, you've got to get it, you know, as you move it, you're going to have to get it lined up to make that work. So yeah, it is possible, but you're probably going to have to go from the bottom up and then move it out to continue up to the top. But yes, it is possible.
So one of the things I wanted to show you, right here, I've got the 2 things I want to output here. If I take the output off, you can see that dims, and same way on this part here. So those 2 things I'm going to run, and if you want to see what it's going to possibly look like, you hit this icon up here will give you this screen, and it will show you how many inches it's going to cut and what the approximate time is. Here it's 5 minutes and 49 seconds. And the rapid moves, that means all the stuff in between the cuts. And that's going to spend about 10 seconds doing that. And the total time would be about 6 minutes to cut this out. And then you can also hit play, and it'll show you how it's going to go about doing
This is
it.
the moves that the laser will make.
But this is about 40 times the speed. And the other thing is you can zoom in, and like if you've got a picture or something like that, you can actually see the different lines it's cutting, you know, it's going to do. It enlarges that so you can see more detail. So, okay, so it's ready to run.
You ready to run that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm hitting the file button, and it gives me a list of the files that are in the computer. Again, we're going to show you all this when you do training. File up at the top. I push that. Let's see if we got I'm going to try to move this a little closer, Chris. I don't know if I can get to it or not. Probably can't see that. Another unique feature of this laser that I really like is we have LED lighting inside. So we can turn lights on so you can see what's going on. Lights off, okay. But that's kind of a handy thing, because when I'm using an epilogue, or if you're over at the Johnson County Library, you've got to have something to actually be able to shine down through the thing so you can see what's going on. There you can see the laser burning, cutting that out. Mike, question? Question? Did you turn it off? Let's switch to the blue one.
All right.
Yeah, let's get.
You have a number of things other than text. Like this is a object.
Right.
Where do you get those? Is there some clip art or something like that that you can acquire?
You can actually download any clip art. If JPEG, bitmap, SVG, you can download any of those. This software, and this is something you'll learn in training, has a trace in it, and the trace does pretty fast, and it'll actually trace so that you can get a product that you can burn. Okay, so you can try most anything. Again, if you get too complicated, here's a picture of the horse that get downloaded. If you take a look, that's actually a pretty nice picture. Okay, I'll let you pass that around.
So you downloaded that as a JPEG, for
Yes.
example, and it hit trace and it developed that, right?
Yes.
Oh.
So yeah, there's lots of options you can do on that. The other part of it is if you want to do a project that's already been made by someone else, designed by someone else, Thingiverse, thingiverse.com. And it's a great resource. Use it for 3D printing, for laser engraving. So there are options for other things that you can do, and somebody may give you an idea. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, back to your trace function.
A little closer.
Back to your trace function. You were talking about it recreating the artwork. If your original, like a lot of clip art, is really low resolution, so when you trace it, does that increase the resolution, or does it recreate the low dots per inch or low lines per inch?
I honestly can't tell you right now. I'm still learning this software. I know CorelDRAW. I can use it very, very well, very easily. Lightburn is a new product for me. That's the reason Doc's on board. Doc's been using Lightburn for several years now.
If you can download a vector, just like with Aspire or anything else, a vector works a whole lot better than anything else.
Question for you. What happens if you do your own line drawing? Can you, let's say you do a drawing of a flower. How can you incorporate that into a laser cut?
Okay, let me address your type of work specifically, okay? Because if you don't know, David's a master at doing the veneers and so on. He really does a beautiful job. But he may have 6 different colors. You can actually set your file up in 6 different, no, we don't have it up here right now, but across the bottom it had different colors for
Those
each
different
layer.
colors, right?
You can set it up at 6 different layers and burn 6 different things, and each layer can be set up separately. So yes, and you can you can keep your origin in one place. You can turn around and put your veneers in there, and you can do each layer individually off the same drawing.
Okay.
So if you can draw it and import it, scan it or whatever you need to do to get it into an SVG, a bitmap, or a JPEG, then yes, it can be used.
But in addition to
Microphone,
answering his
please.
question, hey Mike, I was gonna add to what Dave was asking. Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're wanting to go straight from scratch and do your own drawings and everything, I mean, it's all on here. Like for example, this is a square. You just highlight the square and you click over here. Yeah, there we go, like that. And you can make you got circles, you got.
Yeah, if you can draw it in the computer, it makes it a lot
done.
easier.
So when you have something like this and you want to alter it, you have node settings, and you can go in here to the node settings. Well, I'm not doing it right, I guess. Wait a minute.
So, Dave,
It does not have a paintbrush.
with like your hand-drawn work that you do here, you can scan this into a file. All right. You import it into something. I use Inkscape myself that'll do the vector graphics. And then you do that trace bitmap piece that Mike was talking about. And it'll convert all the lines into vector drawings on there. And you save that. And then you can use that for the laser.
Actually, this Lightburn will convert it for you. Robert,
Okay, let's
a
say,
little closer.
can you hear me?
Yeah, it's on.
Let's say you have a 5x7 AutoCAD or a PLT or a DXF file. So let's say your piece of wood is 6x8. How do you know where the 0 is? It is always that top left corner.
No.
So how do you set?
This machine is different. You'll learn this in training. You set the origin to where you want it. Now, I do want to warn you, the bed of this machine is not square to the gantry. Okay? I asked Ray, why isn't this square to the gantry? He says, well, no one uses it for engraving. They always cut things out. So it doesn't matter. Okay? The reason we bought this machine was to be able to engrave the tops of our field boxes. We have to have them square. We have to have what we want centered. He goes, oh, you probably want to build a jig. So that's what we've done. We built a jig for it. I've got it over here to the side. And whenever I go to do that, I put that jig in there. We use the laser to cut out our lines so we know it's square to the laser gantry. So if you're going to use a larger piece of wood or something like that, that you want a specific point, the neat thing about this is, like I say, it has an origin on it. Let's say I want to cut this piece out and my wood's this big, okay? I can put that origin up in this corner. I can move it where I need to. But I put the origin up here, and it's going to base off wherever I put it. I can put it anywhere on that bed. It doesn't matter.
When you set the origin, how do you know where on your picture it's going to start at that origin
There
point?
is, on the software, can you get back to it, Doc?
Yep.
Pull one of, yeah. See this little box up there? That's the origin. And that always works. The neat thing about it is, like I say, if you're doing something, specific, say you wanted to engrave this and you wanted to have it, lined up in your box, it's going to put the origin here. Okay? So then you just line your little red dot up there. It may be off just a fraction of an inch. We're going to try to fix that in the next week or so. But it's going to start there, and it's going to make your design according to where the origin is. It doesn't matter. And that's one of the unique things versus the one at the library you're familiar with, Robert, is in the library, you've always got to go to a particular corner and work off that corner. This one does not require that. That's one of the big differences, is that the origin you can set individually.
Sorry, that's a lot of passing. Can you make it so it does your drawing without etching your drawing so you can see where it falls on your piece so you know if,
That's what frame's for.
yeah, okay, thanks.
And what it does is it'll take from the origin and go around whatever you've made. Yeah. And example, who's on the backside? Jim, can you run back there and get one of those engraved pieces from the top of the stack? Get it off the short stack if you can. That's the tall stack, but that's okay. Okay, somebody pass that up to me. All right. When I set the origin to this, I set it up here for this corner because I have a frame around it that I'm not going to burn. I can just show it so I can see it. I'm not going to do anything with that frame. However, it will show where this is going to be in the center. Now, if I did not care about that being in the center, I can get rid of that frame, and it's only going to frame the words. So it'll come here to start my origin, and now I can make this a lot tighter. Now, like I say, in this case, we're trying to do something specific, a specific size. But if all you're doing is trying to cut something out, you can do that by setting your origin, it sets the origin closer, and it's going to cut just right wherever you set it. Which also makes it nice for doing veneers, because I can turn around and decide, okay, I don't want to cut down here where it's already split. I want to cut up on this other end, and then that's what it's going to cut out. Doc, would you explain to them how you did the inlays?
Well, basically,
Get to the microphone.
yep. Basically, I just did the lettering, and I did a fill to cut out the female part of it, and then I did the lettering again, inverted it, of course, and then did an outline just to cut out the letters individually, and you may need to make the letters at least the same size as the fill, or maybe just slightly bit bigger to fit in there nice and tight. And then they just came out individually, and just put them in there and glued them in. And of course, I had them thicker, and after it was glued, then I sanded it down even with the board. Yeah.
Would you happen to know the curve of the length of the?
You'll learn that in training.
Okay.
Yes, we know what the curve is. Rich?
So what is the maximum height that can be engraved on this? So what's the distance between the laser and the bed, the maximum there?
You can actually go down 3 or 4 inches without a problem. If you wanted to do the top of a box, let's say you've already built a box, okay, and it's 10 inches. I have not measured it specifically. I will know that by Wednesday when we start training, but it goes down quite a ways.
Okay.
And it will focus according to where you hit your focus. So, you know, even if it goes down 10 inches, 12 inches, whatever the base of the machine is, that laser is on top.
Thank you.
Other questions? Now's your chance. Jim?
Mike, how about a curved surface? Let's say you put a cup in there and you want
At
to,
this point in time, only wood.
well, a wood cup. Can
A wood cup, you're going to have to block it, and you're only going to do the one surface, a flat surface. At this point in time, we're not going to be trying to do anything on
pieces, okay.
This machine has the capability of getting a round spindle. At this point, we do not own that, and that's going to be down the road. Right now, we bought it primarily for one function, and that's what we're going to be using. Craig, do you have a microphone? Find a microphone before you start talking. Yeah, go ahead.
I will say that if any member wants to buy the rotary device and donate it to the guild, we will gratefully accept it.
True, true. You got an extra $500 or $600 sitting around, or whatever, $1,000? Yeah, we'll be more than happy to take it. Yeah, go ahead.
So I had 2 questions. One,
But a little closer, please.
one about buying the wood. If is there any if it's already been finished, or if you wanted to have like a shellac coat to protect it from maybe putting an inlay of epoxy in, would it be all right to put that in there already coated with like shellac or a finish?
Okay, now you're getting into particulars that I was hoping not to get into today. There are certain finishes that when you laser engrave them, they become toxic. Shellac is usually pretty safe, but it would be it's far better to laser engrave raw wood than it is trying to do something that already has a finish on it. There are certain paints that become very toxic. Water base is usually reasonably safe, but again, we've got to be real careful with that. That's one of the biggest reasons that we're not allowing acrylic yet, is because there are certain acrylics that actually become toxic to humans when they're laser engraved, or when they try to laser engrave them. So there's certain specifics that we're going to have to work out before we can bring anything other than wood in. Craig?
I was going to say that like PVC, that C for chloride, anything that's got a chloride in it, there's Lexan, there's polycarbonate, all of those emit a poisonous gas. And as good as that evacuation is back there, that extraction, it's still not perfect. So that's why we're just limiting to wood right now.
Actually, I can tell you from experience, lasering leather is really cool, but man, it stinks. It really smells bad. But it's something that as the SIG progresses, we can look into down the road. Right now, our main focus between Curtis and I is to get people trained on how to use the laser. Like I say, when you get trained, you're going to get a little rabbit sticker that goes on your name badge. So if you change positions, you get a new name badge, you're going to have to get a new sticker, so let me know. But I was complaining to my daughter about I was going to have to try to go get something to be able to mark our name badges. And she says, well, I can make those for you. Huh? She says, yeah, I can make them whatever size you want. You're going to have to cut them out and then peel the back off. But she says, yeah, I can do that. Okay. So she promises to have them to me before Wednesday. So we'll be ready to go when the first people come in on Wednesday. I'm going to remind you again, we're only going to take 4 people at a time, primarily so that 4 people can fit around that laser and actually see what's going on. However, we're going to offer on the first and third Wednesdays, we're going to offer 1 class of 4 people each. And on the second, 4th, and possibly 5th Wednesdays, we will offer 2 classes each time. So we figured out between now and the end of, or beginning of April, we can actually get 52 people through. Okay? I'm not sure how many people are here, probably about that. So I'm sorry? Only takes 1 class. Once you know how to use the laser, you can come in and use it. If anybody touches the menu button, I have a persuader. I am not afraid to use it. Seriously, that's the only thing we ask is just don't touch that menu button, and you're probably not going to use the pulse button. It's not really a use for it other than doing alignment, which is going to have to be done by myself for the most part. Any other questions?
This isn't less about the use of it. I was just curious on how you decided upon a rabbit versus, like you mentioned, Epilogue or others. I was just kind of curious.
That's what
about
Chuck
that
bought.
process.
I can make it that simple. The difference in this machine cost about $13,000. Okay, an Epilogue of equivalent size cost about $40,000. So for purposes of the guild, which do you want to buy?
And also, it was in stock too, where the Epilogue would have been several months out.
The interesting part is the man that did this, been doing it for 16 years. Started out, he decided he couldn't afford an Epilogue, so he started looking at China and found this company and said, hey, I want to buy one of these. Oh, and well, probably ought to buy a second one. Maybe I can make a little profit on it, and I can, sell it, make a little profit, so I'm not spending quite so much. And he contacted the company, and they said, hey, we got a deal for you. He ordered 5 in, sold all of them, including his original one, and then went to reorder and ordered 10. He said at one point in time, his entire driveway was filled with boxes of laser engravers. And as quick as he could get them in, he was selling them. He had one guy that contacted him and says, I understand you're selling these. Here's my check for $10,000. Please get me one. He says, well, it's going to be at least 6 months. That's fine. Go ahead and cash the check. I know where your address is. So if you decide you want to get into the business, he'll probably sell you a franchise. We do ask you that information about the company is on there. We ask you not to contact them. They've got enough to deal with. If you need something, either ask myself or Doc. If we can't answer it, we will find an answer for you. Okay? Any other questions? Microphone, please.
It's more of a statement. There is a lot of, tutorials and things,
Absolutely.
as well as, ask questions and forums online for these particular lasers. So, if you have a question, you can also just go online and browse the forums.
Chris, can you put those? Doc's got some places some YouTubers that he follows regularly that have given him a lot of information.
The Louisiana Hobby Guy, that's my favorite one. He's does lots of other things besides the lasers, but he goes into a lot of detail on light burn. The Computer Creations Guy, he's got a CO2 laser similar to this, but he uses light burn, goes into a lot of detail on it. And the Edge of Tech guy, he's got all kinds of different things, but he also has a lot on light burn. So in that order is kind of my favorite ones to go to.
And there are a lot of YouTube videos out there about how to use a laser engraver, how to set up your software. Please feel free to use those. And again, what we'd like to do, especially with our SIG, as we're getting ready to go in, we're going to start our SIG as a regular meeting. I think the 4th Wednesday of every month, starting in April. Until April, we're going to just be doing training. I do not have April's schedule up there. We're going to get through February before I put April's up. But as we get into there, if you do something and find out, hey, this works, write it down, bring it with you, and we're going to add it to a binder that we will keep that says, hey, this is the best setting for this. So we realize there's going to be a certain learning curve on this and a certain experimental curve. That's fine, as long as we follow the basic rules of the laser engraver and what we have to do as far as the buttons and so on. And we do not touch which one? Thank you. Does anybody have any question about that?
I wanted to tell you about another website. The detailed drawings and the horse and that sort of thing that I got there, that's off of a website called Tribal Art. And it's got a lot of stuff on it, and it's all free. I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff.
So next year when we renew, and we have a rabbit on our sticker,
You'll get a new rabbit.
is Jim gonna put new rabbits on all the cards?
We'll make that happen. We will be keeping a database of who's been trained. The biggest thing is we just don't want somebody coming in that's never used it before. Most of our foremen are not going to know how to use this. They're only going to know they are required to see if you have a rabbit and to give you the key if you do. Most everything is going to be on the honor system. That's how the guild works. You all know, the process when you're down here. It's all volunteer. Tim?
The Lightburn website does have a PDF instruction manual. I printed a copy out and it's over here with the computer, but I'll leave it here. But you can just download it and keep it for a reference yourself. I've started going through that and it has a series of tutorials in it.
Lightburn runs, unfortunately, how much Lightburn is. Lightburn's about 120. Originally, there was some question about whether the guild was going to buy a large license and sell them back out, and we found out that if we do that, then we're responsible for everybody that uses that, which can get rather cumbersome. So we decided that no, it's not a huge investment. Many of the classes you take, you're going to pay more than 120 for. So go ahead and pay for it. You do not have to get the upgrades. Okay, they offer upgrades every year, just like every other software does. You can keep using this software until the point that they say, hey, we're not going to support that at all anymore. But Ray said in the length of time, he's only had one time in 16 years that they have come out and said, okay, we're getting rid of the old software. It's too antiquated. We're going to bring out new stuff. You have to pay the $20 or $30, whatever it is, to upgrade. Yeah, Norm. That one's got a bad battery in it. Sorry.
So that might have answered my questions, but we've had problem with the software on the computers in the library before and the CNC where they don't necessarily match up. So when we upgrade a version on the computer, you got to upgrade the CNC or something like that. Does that happen here, or is it?
Again, do not load any software yourself. I don't care if it says upgraded, whatever it says. If you have a question about it, see me, see Chuck. If we decide it needs to be upgraded, we will upgrade it. It'll be part of the guild process. Please do not load any software yourself. Do not change any machine settings. Yeah, Doc.
Just in regards to the price, the only place I've seen it $120 is on the Rabbit website. If you go to Lightburn itself, it's $60.
There you go.
Okay. And one last thing is, want to see how tight the fit of my finger joints are on this box. There's a box right there that's in partial assembly. You want to check it out. You have to use a little persuader there to put it together.
He's got this one already ready to go. I was in the process of putting mine together when we started this, so mine's not together yet. Something I will show you is that as we burned that just a few minutes ago, there's a couple little spots here that didn't burn all the way through. Trying to line that up again would be nearly impossible, but I could probably take a very small X-Acto knife and cut through what little bit is left there. So, and that's the same, I don't know where my gears went. If you haven't seen those, take a look at those. That's a fun thing. And I've got the small one too.
I was holding my finger on that. That's why it didn't burn through.
Oh, okay. If you lift, once you start, do not lift the lid. You want to see inside, look through the glass. If you can't look through the glass, too bad. Because if you lift that lid, it's going to stop the laser immediately. Okay, then you're basically going to have to start over. So do not lift the lid. There's a magnetic interlock with it. Again, a lot of these pieces we will go over in training. We wanted to give you a general overview of how it works, why it works. You now have the rules in front of you. I'm assuming that you will probably be the first people that get signed up on the trainings. And Mark, if I publish that tonight, when will you send out the notice? I'm putting him on the spot. He didn't know about this.
We typically go out at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays for all training. But you wanted to go out immediately, so I would say we can do it at 7 o'clock tonight or tomorrow night.
Probably go out tomorrow night.
And I can sign up first before it goes out.
There you go.
Sign up would be like a class.
Sign up is going to be a class. It's going to be basically an hour-and-a-half class that we're going to show you. We're going to actually have a little hands-on with the control panel, with burning a few things. Light burn, Doc's going to show you quite a bit about it. You're not going to remember everything. Main thing we want you to remember is about, which buttons to push and when to push them. And that's going to be the big thing right now is the mechanics of it. David, I'll repeat the question. Go ahead.
So will we go into the computer room? Will we be going to the computer room to download it on a thumb drive and then come over here?
That will be the process as you start to work on the machine. During training, we'll do it all right here.
All right, sounds good.
Because we will have some files set up that we're going to show you to burn. Doc will show you exactly how to build a file, and we'll show you the process of taking the file from start to finish and back out. Yeah, Doc.
I haven't talked to you about this, but I was wondering if they already had the Lightburn program on their laptop, if they brought their own laptop in during the training session, that might.
I don't want to hook laptops up to that.
I'm not saying hook it up. I'm saying we individually work on Lightburn program on their own laptop, not hooked up.
Yeah, we'll have some
Instead of
help here
using-
if you're having problems with a
I mean,
particular
you could
problem.
be training somebody on the machine with
Sure.
this while I'm working on.
Yeah, we can work that out. No problem. That all the questions today? We're done a little early. If you want to come over and look at the laser, you can look at it. We've got some pieces up here you can look at that we've already made, just so you can see what's capable of doing with a machine. Thank you for being here today.
A special thank you to our guest today, to the Guild's Leadership Committee, and to all of our sponsors. For more information about the Guild, upcoming classes, and events, please visit our website kcwg.org. You can also find us on social media by searching for Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. And remember to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications.